Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We have another exciting episode of Weekend Workshop. What number is this? Like, this is like 26 or 27.
I
We've done a
lost
lot of these.
I lost count. You have to go count your videos.
Yeah. Um, let's see. First order of business is we'll review what was added last week. We have animation properties for name and speed in the model editor. We were kind of debating like different ways that this could be implemented. And this is what I came up with. Let's see. There's the model.
Hmm.
So we still have these animation controls on the bottom here. And then the animations are listed over here. And when you select the animation in the tree node like this, then it automatically switches this little list box down here. But switching the animation here does not change the tree node selection.
Is that a problem?
No, that's intentional. Because my thinking is like if you're selecting here, if you have this selected, or this, changing it, you probably don't want the animation to changing the animation down here to you probably don't want that to change your selection. Now, maybe, just maybe, if an animation was selected here, then if you selected this and an animation was selected in the tree view, then it might make sense to automatically change the animation like that. That actually, I think I will add that. But I feel like if you have a mesh selected or a material, like you're very interested in focusing on that, and sometimes you might want to change the animation to see how that object is acting and keep it highlighted, but you don't want to remove your selection. So in other words, if nothing is selected in terms of like visual geometry, then maybe the animation should get selected so you can see its properties. But otherwise, I don't want this. I think this, modifying your selected objects would be like kind of too aggressive. This is one of those things where if you if you do it right, the user will never even notice because it doesn't interrupt their workflow and it just feels intuitive to them. But that's one of those little details that you don't you oftentimes don't think about as an end user. So, anyways, you've got you can modify the speed, make it faster, make it slower, and that's really good because then we don't have to program in, we don't have to hard code speed animation speeds in our code components. We don't have to keep entering them over and over in our scene. We can just get them the right speed here, and then we're done.
Yeah,
And
because one thing I noticed when I was like doing the two animated models I had in Cyclone, it's like something will like look good in Blender and play great, like exactly how I want it to like animate in Blender, and then I'll go to the model editor and look fine, but in the game it will always animate like way too fast, and so if we can like streamline that, I think this will help streamline it. But like here, it's showing a good animation speed, but if I were to replicate this in a game, I feel like it will go way too fast or way too slow. Like it won't be like what I'm seeing here, if that makes sense.
okay, if you're
I
exporting
didn't.
a LeadWorks model from Blender or like through the FBX pipeline, LeadWorks doesn't have a concept of like it, there's no speed factor loaded from the FBX file, so it just I think it just assumes 60 frames per second. The GLTF file format does have a speed factor for the animation, so you can have like a variable rate of of frames in the animation. So
Right.
GLTF should load correctly, especially now. And the display speed here should be the same as what we see in the engine, but if it's not, then that just means I've got my math a little bit wrong because this isn't actually using. This is not using the actual
API
animation
play.
system. It's using a timer because this is an
Oh.
event-based application. So it's using a timer and then setting the frame uh, each second, each time that timer updates.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what the issue is. It's just I just always felt like there's an inconsistency of my previewing and what was actually going on in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a me problem or I just that's just how
You're talking
that's
about
I'm just
LEDWorks?
well, I have experience in levels. I haven't really tried doing an animated model in I think I did one, but I just again, if it was too fast or too slow, I just went to the animation speed in the code and just sped it up.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
was able to like rinse and repeat, like, it's all right, one is too slow, so I'm gonna make it 1.5. 1.5 is too fast, and then it was back and forth to see what looked good in game.
mhm.
But I would like something where I don't have to. Since this is using the timer, it's going to be different than using the raw animation
Well,
system.
if it is different, then I need to adjust that. But when this is final, then this should give you an accurate representation of what you can expect in the game.
Right.
Ah, too fast. Okay. Um, Another thing I noticed is that I think this tree should just expand to fill up the space that this properties box doesn't take.
Yeah.
Whatever this takes, and that concept is very different from how the whole GUI is designed. So that's something that needs to be coded like very specially. That's like, okay, so if you expand this, then I think this should move down here and the tree should expand.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very different concept from how the whole rest of the GUI system works, because the GUI system, everything's like top down, like the children take up whatever space the parent has. And with this, you're saying that, like, well, the child, which is this, this properties box, is going to determine the space that the parent, that is, this whole panel here, takes up, and then a sibling at the same level as this panel, under the same parent, is going to expand to fill that space. That's a very, very weird, that like breaks our paradigm. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that has to be programmed specially. But I do think that it would be like a more intuitive approach. And then there's sort of a maximum distance that this can come to, like maybe there. And then after that, you get a slider. If it goes beyond that, then you get a scroll bar that scrolls this whole thing up and down. But that's just something that has occurred to me that I think would be, a nice enhancement. Second, the rifle and the pistol models are done. This is the pistol model. We got a pretty good look at that.
Are they done? Because
I think so.
you said you wanted the bullet to like
Oh, yeah.
to
Okay, let's take a look at that, actually.
because how we have it set up, like after you're done firing, the bullet flies back into the chamber, and
Yeah,
that's not how guns work.
are you sure? It's just
I took a
it's sustainable.
I took a gun safety class, and I can tell you that's not how guns work.
Uh, I think it's sustainable though. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The what is that, like the shell casing?
Mm-hmm.
Flies out. And let's see where it ends up here. And then the next frame Okay, so that's going backwards, but the next frame it's going to be here. Let's take a look at it in wireframe. Is that? I think that's it right there. Okay, yeah, there it goes. Whee! And then the next frame it's back here. The problem with that is it's going to interpolate those frames. So like in between here and here, there's going to be like from here to here, there's going to be a smooth transition either to that or to like the idle animation, in which case the casing is also going to be, there it is, it's going to be back in there. And when that happens, you can see it flying back into the gun. So that's a big problem. And then also there's simply the issue that I don't like having this thing I don't like having this thing flying out at the exact same angle each time. I think it looks weird. Like, if we have that thing coming out, then we should probably use like a physics object, or, you know, it doesn't even have to be a real physics object. It could just be like a model that we just have fly out there and it disappears.
Well, it could also be a particle. Like if you can make a model a particle,
Yeah.
and just treat them.
Well, I mean, if there was a lot of them, then that would make sense. We probably don't need to if it's just a few.
Well, you're expecting, well, if every bullet is fired, it would just be easier if it was like a model particle. You know what I mean? This way, you don't have to add a component and make sure it fades out or disappears after a while, because the particle system will just do that automatically.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you would need like some precise control over when the new particle comes out, but yeah, I would want those to fly off at like slightly different angles and have like a little bit, you know, have some randomness to it. So
Yeah,
the lack of randomness looks bad, and then of course I think re-entering the chamber is like a total that's totally not viable. We'll take a closer look at that later in game.
Right.
So that's easy to fix. We'll just remove the those meshes. I this time when I was exporting these things from Unwrap 3D, like the base model I was using had the scope like out of view, and then I just deleted the scope parts. And I like this a lot better without the scope.
Yeah, and also had like a suppressor too, and that's not fun. That's fun for like stealth games, but not like a first-person shooter. You want it to be loud and.
Well, if anything, we would want it to be like an attachable option, and I don't want to deal with that. I think right here, this animation is bugging me. It's a little bit, it looks like it's missing a frame almost.
Well, I don't have anything in the code for running, you know what I mean? Unless that's what you want, but
I think it does work. I think if your velocity is over a certain speed, I think it switches to the running animation. We can try it in game in a little bit. Put the gun away animation looks very nice.
oh, so there's a get and a hide on both models, right?
Yep, and they look good.
Okay.
That looks
All right,
really sweet.
I didn't know if you wanted the I didn't know if there was just a get animation, and then and then the idea was that we were going to like just play the animation in reverse.
Oh, I mean, we could do that too. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so pulling out the gun, that looks really good. I like how that is done. And then, yeah, you could play it in reverse, but we also have, let's take a look at the hide animation. Oh, that's interesting. That looks better to me for some reason. Like, okay, when you get it out, let's see, it comes, the front kind of swings up, and it looks like you're lifting up. Yeah, It looks like the left arm is lifting up the gun, and then when you put it away, it looks like you're sort of like pointing it upwards, kind of. I don't know. I
Mhm.
can't explain why, but it looks very natural. I like those.
That looks really good.
Okay. We can now drag material files from. Let's see. Where's the model file? Is there a model file in here?
Oh,
Oh, we don't have any model files in here.
the Git omits GLCF
Oh, okay, that's
files.
fine.
Yeah, we never converted the crate file to a MDL file.
Okay, so you can see I just dragged material onto this guy here. So that's a new functionality. That's just a nice enhancement. The editor will also emit a an event for that, and so that can be used for some other purposes as well. Okay, the shadow maps. I was using originally. I implemented these using bindless textures, and then I moved them into array textures because I wanted to. The only reason to do that would be compatibility with Mac and maybe some very old GPUs, but I decided against it, and I moved everything back to bindless textures and this gives you more control over it, and you can select the shadow map size here. I
Ooh.
haven't implemented a global quality setting, which I think would be like low would be like 0.5, so and then high would be like 100%, whatever its scale is supposed to be, its size is supposed to be, and then high quality would be or medium high, and then like ultra would be like double the resolution.
On that note, a lot of these settings are used in integer-based number. Do you think you can make an override function where you make an enum where it's like setting underscore low, setting underscore high, setting underscore ultra, whatever, and this way the developer doesn't have to know what what correlates to low, what correlates to high, what correlates to ultra?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think right now we don't really have any like quality settings like that. I
No,
can't think of anything.
you just have numbers like you just have like integer numbers, and it gets kind of confusing because some are just 0 to 2, some are 0 to 3.
Well,
So it's
in LEDWorks, yeah, but what about in Ultra? What quality settings do we have?
well, no, well, it said like get there's I don't think there's anything exposed in the API. Let me look. I just think it would be a lot more simpler if there was like a settings enum, and then you just
Yeah, I was probably like planning on something like that.
yeah, because that would be very helpful. Because this way, like we can match all Ultra games will have like a standard of what's low, what's medium, what's high,
Hmm.
instead of just developers just winging it. Because I think because in Cyclone, I think low in MSAA is 2x instead of like none. No, it's 1x instead of none because of AMD graphics cards. There's a bug with AMD graphics cards were set anti-aliasing to 0.
Well,
So low is
with MSAA, I would have that explicit because you want 2x, 4x, 8x
yeah,
disabled.
but what about like lighting quality and
I think
um
making fixed presets is not good because for some games you can say, okay, high is a bit higher than for other games. I think a number is better and let the developer create the prefixes for themselves or the.
Well, I'm not saying to get rid of it. I'm saying just to add an override function. So just to make coding a settings menu easier.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the exact setting, and we should discuss those like as they're implemented.
Yeah, because because doing settings to option menus is really difficult. And when you try to streamline it, you always like notice you're not covering all your bases.
Okay. Yeah, let's just keep that in mind, and we'll like. Yeah,
Revisit
I
it.
think the first thing that comes up will be like a setting here for like um, for light quality, and that's like a multiplier for the shadow map size and offset. And so that could be done as a floating point value. So it would be like, you put in like 0.5 or 2.0 or 1.0 for 100%, or it could be done as like predefined values like low, medium, high.
Right. I think they should be both like a explicit
Yeah.
setting and
Okay.
then like
Yeah. Yeah. I see what
and
you're
then
saying.
like a like just a common game dev. Oh, I want the settings to be high. I don't care what the real value is, but I want a good compromise because you don't want users to think high is like 4 times light quality or something.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. Yeah. Let's just try it and see.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and that does require require new shaders on if you're using 097. Um,
Yep.
and then 12 bugs were fixed. Let's take a look at the game here. Let's see what this looks like in game. Into file. Looking. Did you forget? Oh, this needs to not use precompiled headers.
It's something you have to edit because I saw that CPP file edited today.
Yeah. Yeah, while we're at it, I added this into the C++ project template, and you want to include this in your C++ projects because apparently it was not selecting the discrete AMD card. So user Charua has an Intel integrated graphics combined with an AMD discrete card in his GPU. And it was using his Intel graphics and not the AMD card until he included that file. And then it worked. And this is already included in the static library. And I thought it worked for NVIDIA switchable graphics, but apparently it wasn't working for AMD. And I was planning on doing this anyways because I'm going to be, I'll probably start testing Intel graphics pretty soon and giving the information to Intel. I mean, their drivers don't work right now, but if I give them a demo and show them what's not working, they can probably fix that. So this was added this morning, and you definitely want to include this file in any C++ projects you have. If you're using Lua, then you don't have to worry about it. It'll just already work that way.
Yeah, you gave me that code years ago, and I put it in Cyclone, but I haven't heard anything from it. But it must work, I guess.
Yeah, I think this was always in LedWorks by default. Let's see. Very cool development comes from the forum from Klepto. He calls himself a kleptomaniac, but the only thing he has stolen is our hearts. Okay, so he uploaded his first implementation of the water is excellent water, and I think this is a bit of a simplified version. I think he has another version that's more advanced, has more advanced features, but
Yeah,
it looks so good.
Yeah, he said that this is just like the one you just pull from Shader Toy. I think the one he's making, you can like set the tide and like set like like how much foam you want, and like it's very very detailed.
Yeah.
But my question is like, is this what you kind of want in the default installation? Like you just want to just go enable water and you get this.
I actually want to use. I want to have volumes. I want to have like water volumes. And another thing I added here is I kind of filled out these.
Yeah, so
Let's see. That's quite dark. Oh, that's strange. Oh, I'll have to take a
oh,
look at that. I'm not sure why those are not
well,
appearing correct. Is this what it looks like for you guys?
um, well, I don't think I have transparent windows open because I think
That's quite dark.
yeah. Well, it's only temporary. I wouldn't worry too much about because
Yeah.
eventually you're gonna.
Well, they're supposed to
Oh,
be 50. They're supposed to be 50% brightness.
also, my icons look different than yours.
Hmm.
Like my camera icon doesn't.
Like it's
I
a
don't
different
think yours.
icon, or how does
Yeah,
it look different?
I can send you a snip of what I see. Also, please fix the bug where when my monitors go to sleep, the second the windows spawn on the other monitor. That's really annoying. I have to like reset the editor.
Is there a bug report for it?
I think I put it in. I remember it's with dual monitors and it depends. And I don't know if it's just like how my driver is putting the monitors to sleep, but when the monitors get waking up, all my like menu toolbars appear on the other monitor. Like it doesn't know what display index to draw on. But back to what I was saying before, that's what my menu looks like. It's in the voice chat. You got press the little yeah. That's what mine looks like
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, but my camera icon is different and such, so
Oh.
Mhm.
That's yeah. These look correct. So I added. We've got decal here, particles. These things are not. These
let
are
me
grayed out because they're not implemented yet.
yeah,
The
let
strip
me
light, and then I just added a
I
water block. I'm not
but
sure if that's.
that's without on transparency effect.
I think the water block is great because the old system in networks here was kind of limited. So you could have only water at a certain level. If you want to make, for example, in terrain where are mountains and a lake in the mountains, you couldn't do this with LED work.
Yeah, that's the idea. So I think I'll implement like simple water, and maybe perhaps Klepto will want to take those water volumes and add this on top of them instead of the simple water, or something. We'll work it out. But he has some requests of like things to add to the editor scripting system to make this work better. I'm amazed he was able to do this. Look at this. You've got new options in the settings menu. You can set the height. You've got this real time rendering. How did he do this? I have no idea. This is
He
crazy.
said he makes it like he makes the viewport draw per a timer.
Yeah, that's nuts. Though I'm not used to seeing like starting my program up that I wrote and then seeing it like act in completely different ways. It's very cool.
I I
Um,
wonder I wonder if that means that the physics will actually update per because it's real time. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
no,
I
the
don't know.
the physics are disabled basically in the
All
in the
right.
editor build.
All right.
Yeah, this is really cool though. So
Yeah. I hope that you make this like easier to do instead of someone looking at old versions of your headers and figuring and pretty much rebuilt. Forgot the term. Reverse engineering it. I really hope that you can just like if someone wants to make a spline tool or a or any tool, I really hope that there's like tutorials or at least templates to like set people up. It's like, okay, this is how you add a new brush tool. This is how you add a new entity tool, or this is how you add, make new objects or systems. Because
yeah, of course.
Yeah, because right now, Klepto and pretty much like the end user, they pretty much have to look at what is already out there and then try to like figure out. Pretty much like it's very hard to like make new extensions right now because nothing's really documented.
Well, the editor scripting API is probably like one of the lowest priorities because it's something that's still prone to change and very few people use this. I mean, only like, and even if it was fully documented, like still very few people would be interested in using it.
Right. And this might not even work in the next few updates because you might change something. So.
Possible, but I mean, I think the important thing is he released something. It looks fantastic, and I'll continue working with him, and we'll come to meet somewhere in the middle where to make this the optimal experience. But I'm really happy to see this. This looks so good, and I think it'll just get better in the future.
Yep.
Let's see.
So we can download the water from the forum, right?
Yeah, it's right here. He just uploaded another version of it, and then here was the first version, and then new version with Okay, it's also up here. So he's got. So I guess this would be for like 096 probably, and this is for 097.
Can you include this in existing projects already? Is it something like in prefab or the water play?
It consists of there's a script that has to be added to basically if you just extract the zip file into your Ultra Engine install directory and create a new project, then it will work. But there's also I just did this. So there's a script that needs to be added there. So this goes in the Ultra Engine directory, and then you can put this in the templates directory, but all it is just a shader, and I think there's a couple of textures. So you could just take this common,
put it in your project.
Yeah, just take these two folders and put those in your project. That's what I did just now to install those, and it worked fine. So thank you very much, Klepto. I think everybody probably appreciates that, and it's
really
very,
cool.
very cool.
Yeah, it's great work.
Do we have a round of applause?
I gotta find it. Hold on. There we go.
Yay! Okay. All right, let's take a look at... we're making progress again with the first-person shooter example. And the animation speeds are probably off here. That's fine. The important thing is
it looks like a
cool.
Game. It looks like a video game.
Yeah, the run animation, it's going too fast, but it does look good. The lighting looks good. The sRGB really, really helps this because otherwise this would be like such a struggle to get it bright enough. And then you would have like extreme over brightening.
Yeah, that was a problem with Lightworks.
You could see now if I click over and over again, I was actually able to get the shell to where it was just like hovering there, like to the right if the animation speed was lower.
Yeah, I think it's because I added like an automatic property where if you check, it's just something in the weapon component. You check it, and then it uses mouse down instead of mouse hit.
Yeah. So this is set to semi-auto right now, which is good. And you can see like when you're going at a faster speed, and it's based on speed, not on whether you're holding the shift key. If you're going at a faster speed, it switches to the run animation. Not sure what we need to do something about this because
You can't shoot. Well, technically you can. It's just not ethical. Like, yeah, we probably like, all right, if you're like, if can we check a model if it's like in an animation? Like, can we say model get current animation, and then it's like if you're in this animation, like I need you like to not do this or do this or whatever.
that kind of defies explanation because there's a
Could use,
what's that? We can barely hear you, Andy.
you could use the animation and then Boolean value. I did this for the reload. I said if I press the R button, for example, I set the Boolean value to true. So it's just calling is reloading. I set it to true. And while this is true, no other animation is playing. And the hook within the last animation frame set it back to false.
Yeah, we did something I think similar to that. Let's see, first person
Yeah.
weapon. So
Well,
what?
the thing is like the running since it's dynamic, like the speed is dynamic. So when I just thought it would just be easier just to check what current animation it'll be in, but we can do a Boolean system.
Well,
You use the state machine.
so okay, so what we did here is we have this reload hook, and let's see, that's triggered. Okay, so this only gets added once at the beginning. There's this hook that gets added when a certain frame is hit. I have it hard coded to 60. We can calculate that automatically. When the reload hook is hit, then the reloading state is set to false. With shooting, because you have multiple like overlapping shots, because it just goes as fast as you can click the mouse, the firing value is an integer, and when you fire the gun, the firing value is incremented. You can see here, and then when that hook is hit, then the firing value is decremented right here, which is what that does. Now the thing with running, okay, if you're walking, then you can go into the shoot animation very quickly. There's no problem there. When you're running, then your gun is pointed down, and I'm not sure how we should handle that. Should we have like a... If you're running, do you want to be able to switch instantly to shooting? Like, what happens if you're running and you shoot? Should it immediately shoot? Should the gun like raise up like suddenly?
You stop running and then you just fire. I think that'll be more ethical. I haven't been playing much games, so I can't like. I think that's how it works. Like you just stop sprinting and you just shoot.
So you have to stop sprinting before you can shoot, or it automatically makes you slow down to walk speed?
In Counter Strike, it's like if you run and shoot, you're just shooting.
Yeah,
but in Counter Strike, does your gun point down when you're running? Does it have an animation like that?
No, that's more Call of Duty and
yeah. Okay, so we need to decide: do we want this to be more of a tactical shooter style, or more of a like an action shooter? Because if it's more like actiony, then we probably want to not use these animations here. We probably just want to use the walk speed animation at a faster rate.
Also, do you know the games from back in days? You need to aim first and then you can shoot with the right mouse button. So you aim first and then you can shoot.
Like with iron sights?
I'm not sure. I don't know. But yeah, you need to aim first. So you need to press the right mouse button. Then you run in an aim animation and then you can shoot only. So the shooting is like...
I think that goes into the conversation of, do we want a tactical shooter or do we want like a classic like shooter? Because a tactical, that's like it, like like because you always want to like your gun will be very very inactive if you don't do iron sights, but like your pistol turn into a mini sniper rifle if you do use the iron sights. So I don't know. That's actually like a good question. Like, what kind of first person shooter do I do? We just want like a simple like? I guess that just depends. Like what people want to use. Like what kind of first person shooters do people want to make? Like, do they want? Do they just need a basic FPS shooter and then they want to add those features, or should we define how those systems work?
I think I have an opinion, and I think I know what answer we're going to come to already, but I would like everybody to sort of research this on your own, and so that we understand the situation better.
I think modern shooting is. I think the tactical is more modern because it doesn't matter if it's like Fallout or Cyberpunk or whatever. It has if you run the model animates and then your gun is inaccurate as like hell unless you use the iron sights. But
Well, outside the
for sim-
I mean, I think we already said like we don't want to deal with iron sights. Not
yeah,
in the first rendition at least, but what I'm talking about is here. If you go here, like, what
mhm,
should happen if I click the mouse button right now?
you should. I think you should stop sprinting and the gun should fire.
That's got to be a very fast transition because, okay, so first we need that transition. Okay, the transition to shooting should be really fast. Actually, it should be like almost no transition, like just enough to make it to smooth things out. But we
Mhm.
want that to be very very fast, anyways, because that action, I mean, that action happens like instantly.
Mhm.
Okay, let's try that first. Let's try making the transition to the shooting. We can do that right now. Let's see. Let's see where that happens. And find animation. Okay. We don't want 250 milliseconds. We want like 50 milliseconds, maybe. Let's try that. It's kind of weird why we. Oh, this is automatic. Okay. That was for the automatic pathway. And this is the semi.
Yeah, if you have a way we can like make that better, because I just copied and paste.
Yeah. We can probably combine those into one statement. Let's see. Oh, okay. That's weird.
Yeah, that doesn't look right. That
It's
doesn't look
doing
right
what we
at all.
told it to.
Maybe you should just not be able to shoot when you're sprinting, but
That's another option, yeah. Okay, so
that, that's
we
that's
need to find
that's
a
an easier
game.
option. That's an easier option because you don't have to talk to the player controller. You can just say, "Oh, if you're not
Yeah.
running," and
If your horizontal speed is, over the run speed, then you can't shoot.
mhm,
I kind of like that actually because then you have to like the player has to let go of the shift key.
right, they can't just like yeah, because we're not making like a Doom like clone. We're making like a tactical shooter. Like Doom.
Let's try this. And window key down shift equals false. Yeah, these are just the little things you never really notice until you're programming it. Okay, now I can't. I'm clicking the mouse and I can't shoot until I slow down. That feels right to me.
Yeah, and it's the easiest solution.
It is.
But the hand is It's the animation speed from the running is too fast a bit.
Yeah, we'll
think-
slow that down in the model file. Let's
Or
take a
you
look.
can make that, or you can make that based on the velocity and just multiply it.
Yeah, you could.
That's if you
See.
want to be really fancy. But then if you're like sliding down a hill or something at like max velocity, it might look weird. So you probably want to cap it.
Let's take a look at the. I do like this pistol model though. I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Animations, run. Let's take a look at what it looks like in here. That might be what it. That might be the same as the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. So
Yeah,
it's a little bit faster than a second.
Wasn't the shoot it was the shoot animation or not?
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it is running faster in the game.
Yeah, that's the issue I was talking about in the
It's because the frame rate.
Well, okay, this was just added last week, so if the calculation is off a little bit, that's okay. I'll get that fixed. We want this to run at the same speed.
right. And this is what I was saying before. Like, I feel like my animation is always faster in game than when I'm looking at either in Blender or the preview.
Well, okay, Blender, that's a separate issue because that
Yeah.
means okay. Let's.
Yeah, I know you
Look
can't
at
do
it
anything
now.
about. I know you can't do anything about Blender.
Okay, we might actually be ignoring the animation speed because that looks exactly the same as before. I think
Yeah,
maybe even
you-
faster.
You adjusted the shoot animation.
Really?
I think so. Yes. Blade
No,
press.
this is run. It looks similar because it's moving. Yeah, it looks
Ah.
similar, but you can see it's like,
Look down. And the shell case is not coming out.
yeah.
It
That's
looks
another-
like the shoot. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll mess with it later. Anyways, so yeah, I mean overall, like these are pretty much done. I mean the hard problems are solved. We spent an enormous amount of time getting these up. Andy, have you got 3D Studio Max installed yet?
Yes, but I'm not complete done. I will send it tomorrow to you.
Okay,
I
cool.
was- during the week I was not at home, so it was kind of hard.
No problem. Yeah, I had plenty to do with this, and we can implement the melee weapon next.
Which goes into like what I want to talk about, the weapon holster system.
Yeah.
So,
Before I was gonna
I
say,
know-
like before we get into that,
Yeah.
do we
no problem.
have any questions? So for as far as engine development goes, I think next up we'll be looking at like decals and also adding some extra information into the entity data.
Super.
Adding
Been
a
waiting.
quality setting for the lighting. What was that you said?
I said super. I've been waiting 7 months for that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it has been 7 months. Let's see. Do we have, before we move on to getting into more details about the first-person shooter? Oh yeah. So I think I met with at a call with Kronos, somebody from Kronos Developer Relations. I think that was Monday. And I just told them like the things that I had problems with in Vulkan, and then they listened to that, and then they were like, okay, well, some of this information is something we haven't heard before. Do you want to talk to some other people? So I think that was just sort of like the introductory, screening, I guess. Some of the
Yeah.
people in Kronos, I mean, of course, they're all industry. Kronos is made up of industry. I mean, it's a non-profit, but it's a cooperation between different companies. And some people are like, like I think the head of like OpenXR also happens to be like the vice president of Vario and stuff like that. So there's actually like some pretty heavy hitters in there. A lot of times when they're looking at us and they're retweeting us, like Klepto's a video and like some others got retweeted by the official Vulkan account. They seem to be very interested in Ultra Engine for some reason. And typically when I do this, a lot of times is when you want to check somebody out and figure out you have something in mind, but you don't want to put all your cards on the table. What you do is you start meeting with them and just like, talking to them and finding out like, basically like you want to find out, is this person cool? Is this somebody that I can work with? Is this, if that person's like kind of crazy or something, you want to give them a chance to reveal themselves before you say what you had in mind, because that way you can just back out of it without them like being disappointed or expecting something from you. Yeah, so that's like anytime like somebody approaches you in that way, that's probably what they're doing. Is they're just like screening you to see, basically if you're like some unhinged weirdo, they want to find out before they reveal their cards. So we'll see. I don't know. They have been awfully nice to us though, and I definitely appreciate it. And I just like try to tell them like the struggles that I had with Vulkan in a constructive manner, and I don't really give them advice or tell them what they should do. I just say like, yeah, these are the problems I had, and this is why I ended up not being able to use it.
Yeah, I think that's like the impression I'm getting. They're like looking at what you've done, and they're like, "Well, why not make it a Vulkan engine?" And then you're like, "Well, because of this, 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 and this." You know what I
It
mean?
was a Vulkan engine, and I mean, we didn't
Yeah,
really start
I
making
wanted it.
progress.
I wanted it to be a Vulkan engine, but
Yeah. Now that once we switched over to OpenGL 4.6, that's when we started making a lot of progress really quickly. We got 096 out,
yeah,
which is a great update, with some really. I mean, this is really packed with a lot of features. And
yeah,
if we're
you got
going by
vegetation and
if we're going
everything.
by my estimate of Vulkan being about 5 times slower than this amount of work, this would have taken 1 year and 3 months to get to this otherwise, and we got there in 3 months with using OpenGL 4.6.
No,
Seriously,
I think this is great, and at the end of the day, do customers really care what API?
nobody, not one
Right.
person gave me any pushback about that.
Right.
Oh well, I think there are some points you think about, to be honest. So it's more about the future compatibility with the open with the systems.
If we're speculating about the future, I'd say the future is probably DirectX everywhere at this point. Like, I've always been on Team Kronos, but I mean, I think as things are going right now, like, I think Vulkan has completely failed to gain market share, and it's being kept alive by like Google and Valve, and maybe id Software. Maybe I think Google is basically just the only thing keeping it alive, really.
And Valve on the Linux because Vulkan's really good at.
Making DirectX drivers.
Yeah, pretty
How
much.
long do you think it'll be before Nvidia and AMD just decide? I don't know. I mean, why even have Vulkan? Why not just make DirectX drivers for Linux?
Because direct, that's a Microsoft thing. That's it. They want Windows to be the ultimate gaming platform. Like they're actually integrating Xbox services into Windows, and yeah, I don't even think there's going to be an Xbox in the future at this
So
point.
Vulkan is the only
Mhm.
reason. So okay, so presumably the only reason Nvidia hasn't made DirectX drivers for Linux is for legal reasons, and Vulkan is basically a way to sidestep those legal issues and write an emulation layer, basically for Linux for DirectX.
That's what this seems to be is doing best at. I mean, the DXVK seems to be, again, it's the foundation of the SteamOS, pretty much.
That's a horrible outcome. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, I don't know. They might have something else planned. I think they are aware of the problem, but I'm not going to tell them like what they should do. Because it's all that's going to do is, I'm sure they have some kind of plan. I'm just going to tell them like what my problems have been, and then it's up to them to, if they ask me, then I have an opinion, but otherwise I'm just going to give them feedback. And I do think like, yeah, if we want to be future, I think we're probably going to have like 5 more years of chaos. And then we'll probably have DirectX everywhere, but who knows? I mean, things might completely change. I don't think the current state of things is going to be. The current state of things is definitely not going to continue, and also it's impossible to tell what the future looks like.
It's not about this, it's more about that they stopped the developing on OpenGL.
Well, so what?
That they stop making updates or anything with OpenGL. This is the point I mean.
Yeah, but so how does that affect? I mean, yeah, in the future that could become a problem, but how does that affect us right now?
Right now, not no.
Yeah. So worrying about what might appear in the future, it's impossible to predict. And the only thing OpenGL is actually missing is ray tracing, and there are ways around that with both NVIDIA and AMD do have libraries for that integrate with OpenGL that can do ray tracing. In fact, like if I do it in the future, I might want to make that into like an open source project. Basically make it an extension for OpenGL because it would be very popular. If you look at like Reddit and the forums, like the Kronos forums, like OpenGL is way more active than Vulkan, despite their best efforts to kill it off. So I don't know what they're planning, but I do think that they are probably. I think they are aware that there's a problem.
I think OpenGL is more active, at least on Reddit, because it's more easier to get in.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the whole problem. DirectX 12 is easier than Vulkan, I think. Anyways, do we have before we get into the more details of the game project? Do we have any questions about the engine? 5, 4, 3.
Not now.
2.
If I do, I will.
1. What's an appropriate sound? Okay. Any questions about the engine that have not been answered yet?
No.
Trash Can Useful is typing something. Oh, he's typing now. Okay, cool. So that was thorough. Weapons player, FPS holder. What do you think?
All right. Well, you just pretty much just create a component and called it a day. But one thing I would want to put is I think the FPS holder should be under weapons, maybe. Instead of player.
Okay.
So the idea of what I had in mind is that the FPS holder is going to be responsible for loading in all the prefabs, and then it's gonna listen for that mouse events. So like if you scroll up, it goes to the previous weapon or the end of the list, and if you scroll down, it goes to the bottom of the list or the top of the list if you're at the bottom. It's going to be responsible for holstering and unholstering the weapon, and then it's going to also be responsible if we want like a little like HUD on the side where it's like it shows you all your weapons. It's also going to like show that too, because the idea is that you just want to attach this to your player component, to your player entity with the FPS controller. Or it could be a third-person controller. You can have a third-person.
Yeah.
And then that's all that's your weapon management. You don't have to integrate that in your base player, because you know, and it also showcases the benefits of having a multi-component system versus a mono actor system like in Legworks.
Yeah, I like the approach. I don't like the idea of having to add multiple components just to get basic first-person controls working. We kind of talked about,
Yeah,
at one point about doing that, and I don't think that's a good idea. But having like this be a separate component that you add once you're ready to do weapons, I think that makes a lot of sense. So like
yeah.
do you think each weapon should define like its slot, like its index slot of where it appears?
I think. Well, this is like the thing. Like, maybe you can do some little cleanup on the how the components are laid out. I kind of want to be like have like an entry where it's like slot 0, and then you just like put in, and then it's like weapon, and then you load in your weapon prefab, and then
Hmm.
and then or like at top. I
So
think
you,
the
so
I
you
think
want
the, oh,
you want the holder to define what the weapon order is.
I think so because well no, that should be the weapon because what happens if your order is axe, pistol, rifle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then but you start with a pistol. So you're missing the axe and the rifle. But then you get the rifle and then the axe. But it should still go it shouldn't just add to the list. It should always go axe, pistol, rifle. And it's like in Half-Life 2, it skips the weapons you don't have.
I have a
And
question.
yeah,
Can I axe it?
I hate you.
Okay.
I think. Did you remind at the start one of the first meetings we had? I was talking about something like an component field, like a list field, where you can add multiple entries to it.
Yeah, that would be handy.
Yeah, instead of like adding a path for each thing, you could just add that path to a list, and then you can resort that list or something instead of having all this like slot 0, weapon, prefab and all that. Because
Well,
I
I
think a
mean,
list
no
would
matter
actually
what,
be
we've got this resizable array that where our
right.
weapons are stored, and
Correct.
if some of those values may be null if the weapon has not been picked up, how do you think the weapon should be picked up?
They should be a pickup weapon, and then that should be based with the interaction system. And when that weapon is used or interacted with, the weapon the world model gets hidden, and then it, and then I don't know if a new prefix should be made on the fly or the weapons should be all created at start, and then we just have a bool array telling you what you can and can't use.
Okay, it sounds like we're gonna need a. Let's see. It sounds like we probably need a separate component for a pickup. Do you think?
Correct, because that's a world model. That's going to be in the world. You're going to be able to place it, and that's going to have a different model too. So
Why you not just create all the prefabs from the start off, and put them in a list, and make something like a weapon component, a weapon holder component, and the weapon component just defines if you have this weapon collected or not.
well, yeah, that's an idea. Like it just loads all the prefabs, and then the whole
Just hides all the stuff you don't
Yeah,
have.
we also need to define. You're right. We need to define like what it has by default as well,
yeah, because sometimes you want to
like a
because
default loadout.
I can
yeah,
send later my weapon system for the first person shooter, for the multiplayer shooter, if you want to have a look, maybe. You
Sure.
can use basics of this and extend it.
Yeah. So Okay, so we probably want a pickup item too. Do we want to reuse this for like health packs and other stuff, or do we want to just have like a weapon pickup?
I think there should be a base class for weapon pickup, and then there should be a separate um for weapons because the weapon because like a health pack just needs to talk to the player or the health component or whatever how we decide to do it, but the weapon pickup item has to talk to the holster. So
So they probably both need a method called pickup, and
right,
then that way, if it's and then if you're
or,
picking up a
yeah,
health pack, then it'll influence the health.
Yeah.
That's where that code lives. But whatever happens, like the pickup item is just something that when you collide with it, when the player collides with it, then it disappears, and a it has okay, and it has another prefab defined that has a component that has a pickup method defined on it from this base class pickup class, something like that. Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to work around with it, but I think that could work out.
You should create some extra abstract class for the pickup, something like pickup item, and then you can create subclasses like how it's called, a weapon and medikit.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying.
that's what I'm thinking.
Is the best way to do it.
I think
And
so.
also I think they don't need to be components to pick up stuff. Yeah, they need to, because you need to interact with the
What's that?
yeah. They need to be a component, right? So the
Yeah, I
pickup
think so.
item needs to be a component.
Hmm. Yeah, and also, and besides collision, it also needs to be interacted with. So when we do the interaction system, because you should be able to, it should be like FR2. You should be able to walk over it and use the use key on top of it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So components.
what
Let's say.
do you know also what I really miss? What Ledwork said about Ultra not. You was able to render stuff within the scripts in Ledworks. So you was able to render text within a function you override.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is we want to replace the way it's currently done with which is with an extra orthographic camera. I think we want to have like some 2D drawing attached to a camera that gets rendered after everything else, after the 3D scene. We still want like persistent objects because that just it goes so much faster that way. But I do think we can simplify things quite a bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll still have like persistent 2D objects, but it will the camera setup will be greatly simplified. I think that's another
I
thing.
think you should let the camera system like it is, but just create an function to create an interface and return a struct with all the information, like the camera, like the interface pointer and all the stuff.
Yeah,
I think
that could work. I would probably do that as like some code that the project includes because I don't know if that needs like new API commands. I don't know.
Speaking of camera API commands, when we're gonna get the set matrix command, so I can stub the layer and the camera layer code.
Yeah, but that's part of having a that's part of what I was saying about like extra information stored for the along with the
Right.
entity matrices. That's part of that.
I bet you mostly meant like the actual material properties and all that too. But yeah, that's good.
Both.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So
Basically, I have to add a flag into the. Okay, so those are things that don't get used very often, and I don't want to double the amount of memory we're using for all of our entities, because that would just
right,
be a huge amount of wasted space. So what I need to do is add like a bitwise flag that says, "Hey, there's some more. There's extra. This entity includes extra information." Because
right.
like
This is
99% of the
important.
time it won't, but when it does, then that's when you really need it.
Right, like gameplay props and all that. That's worth the cost. I
Yeah,
understand what you're saying. You don't want like the average like crate to like have all this information that's null.
yeah, and so what Read Blue is actually referring to is we were talking about having a defined projection matrix for the first-person weapon, and that way,
Right.
no matter getting the angle of the weapon is very very difficult. He did a
Yeah, and
really
then
nice job on this.
yeah, but it only looks good at 54 fields of view. So if you had a
Yeah,
game, if you had a game and like the player is like, no, I want this at 90, and then they just throw all your work out the window and everything looks like garbage.
yeah, so
Uh,
we want the gun to have the same field of view no matter what, because we always want it to look exactly like this, because it looks good right now. We don't want it like stretched out. And so all we have to do is have a defined projection matrix stored for that specific model. And then what will happen is the vertex shader will detect that there's a defined projection matrix, and it will override the camera projection matrix with that. And so that way we can render our entire scene with a different field of view that the user can customize. But the view model here in the foreground will have the projection matrix that we want.
Yeah.
It really looks
then
so good.
yeah, and it'll be a lot better and cleaner than rendering it to another layer.
Yeah,
Because
the other option would be to use multiple cameras.
yeah, which has its own disadvantages. For some reason, even though you said you fixed this, for some reason the probes don't reflect on all layers correctly. Like,
Um, I'm not. It's probably because their render layers are not set as wanted. But yeah, it does
well,
just like simplify everything.
yeah. So I think so. I don't. So although like that's one thing I was excited for. Well, the engine was in development. I don't think it's. I think your projection system will actually be a lot better because
As a general rule, I'd say multi-camera setups should be discouraged. Another issue is that like if you're out, like we don't have that problem in this project because it's all indoors. But if you go
right.
outdoors and you have a directional light, if you have a different field of view, then that means you need to render that all those cascaded shadow maps. You need to render it twice because
Hmm.
it's using different settings. So
Right.
just if we can make sure that we're just using one camera, then I think the
Right.
projection matrix override. I think that's a great solution, and I like the idea of having that built into the engine rather than having a custom shader. I think that's a great solution.
Right. So the only thing you have to think about to limit multiple cameras is a UI layer for the HUD and everything. Because that right now you need a second camera for the UI, even though it's probably less expensive because it's not a 3D. It's not.
As long as you call set lighting to false on that camera, but I suspect that's
No.
an easy mistake to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll just be consolidated. That'll just be added onto a 2D layer. Um,
But do you think the not the interface, but like if you just want to like draw like this, like let's say I go to Affinity Designer, I make a crosshair, I save it as an SVG. Right now, I have to create a camera, set the coordinates to the frame buffer 00 size,
mhm.
and hope that the frame buffer doesn't change its size or else I have to listen for a special event
Yeah,
to reposition it. And then I have to find the center of the frame buffer and create a. I think I would have to create an interface because I'm loading a vector object.
Well,
maybe.
you could also create just create a sprite and set up the render layers so it only appears in the second camera and
Right.
position it correctly. But I think we can simplify that a bit. I think we can simplify it a bit, and while maintaining the flexibility, most of the flexibility that we have.
Yeah, so what are you thinking? Do you think a component should have a 2D layer built into it that listens to the window events? So you can so it's kind of like in Lightworks where you have that post render function where you just tell it to just draw things to the screen if it's active. And
I'm not sure yet. I think we'll just have to like try it, and then like once we're using it, I think it'll be more obvious. But I think the first step is to just we've decided that's kind of the direction we want to go in. The only thing that we'll lose probably is you might lose the ability to have like as of right now, you can have post processing effects underneath the user interface. You can have post processing effects on top of the user interface. You can have post processing effects that only affect the user interface. We'll probably lose that granularity, but I think that's okay if it simplifies the developer experience. So let's just try it, and then once we're using it, I think the answers will be a lot more obvious to us.
yeah, that's what this project's is for us to figure out what solutions are the best and what are actually like backfiring.
I'm really not worried about anything else in this project.
Cool?
What's that?
You know something other cool, which you actually could create it within the main CPP file and not make it in the engine itself. A function where you can actually create callbacks which are given to the component, so that you can access within the component and vector with predefined functions. It's a bit hard to explain, but I think it would be something really cool, to be honest.
You'd probably want to define those in a separate file. Like, let's see, out here you'd want to define a separate file with a header, and then your components would need to include that file. Does that make sense?
It's more about you create a vector within the component, and then you can add some functions or some, yeah. It's hard. I tried to write it to you later with maybe something graphical.
Okay.
I think it's more easy than to explain.
So yeah, it would be something like that. Yeah, if you have like an example of like how it would be used, and that would help. Yeah, I'm really not worried about anything else in this project because, like, you know, an enemy running around, we've done that. You know, the ballistics, we've done that. All our discussion about like how to organize the weapons pickup system, we're really just this is all stuff that we've done before, and we're just like trying to make
the
it.
new systems.
What's that?
Adapting to the new systems because you did it in Lightworks, but now you have to. Now you're doing it in Ultra Engine, and now in Ultra Engine you have a lot more options and flexibility.
Well, there's that, and it's also just like I think what we really want to think about is like long-term reusability, which is what this project is all about. We're not trying to make the best game here. We're developing this differently than we would if we were just making a game, because we're going for maximum reusability.
Yeah, and we're trying to show off like the best ways of doing things too. The one thing I did not like about the Lightworks examples was that it was very narrow. It wasn't very reusable. I felt like I had to like rewrite a lot of things myself because.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have like features left out and allow people to add those in than to have something that's overly specialized. Right. It's easier to add code than it is to remove code.
Definitely. Been there, done that.
So, I mean, the first person holder, and that's just, I mean, that's not anything complicated, really. We're just, it's simple enough that we're able to, like, verbally discuss it. Like, a lot of stuff isn't simple enough to
Yeah.
have a verbal discussion about. And then the ballistics, that's, just stylistic. That's not terribly difficult. It's just a ray cast.
Yeah.
The enemy, we already have the systems for that. So I'd say, like, it's probably going to turn out that handling the view models, that probably took about 50% of our time for this project.
Art's gonna be another time sink, but because we want a consistent look throughout the map, because now we have a reference point where the art should be, and that's the view model now. So our art has to match that level of quality, or else the view model is not gonna. It's gonna look like it's from a totally different game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too worried about any other, like, at the beginning of this I said, like, I was worried about the view model, and now that it's basically done, I just need some adjustment. I'm very pleased with this. And I'm not worried about any, like, I think this is going to get more and more fun, actually.
Yeah, and less of a like thing we just pick at for a few hours a day, and then we're like, oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna submit my changes and
At some
let.
point, we need also some other model. Think about this. We need to start making models, other models, because otherwise we have an empty room, an empty building with just nothing in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think we need to first. I think the next like hard thing we need to do is the enemies, and then we need to like draft out the scenario. Like it can still look like this. We need to make the game fully playable from start to end, looking like this, and that means we need monsters and key props like the valve thing and all that.
I think we should approach this from the player outwards. So, like, this next week, let's focus on the FPS holder, and let's focus on the pickups. Let's get the melee weapon in. I think we should pay the most attention to things that are the closest to the player that they interact with the most, and then I think it'll develop best if we start there and then grow out from there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Speaking of the player, that means we're gonna need like a health component too. Unless you want that in the player itself.
Do you guys want to do what, like med pack pickups, or do you want to do recharge in health?
We can do. I was thinking about like health packs, but like the idea is you
Marcel.
get like he's not here, but
Well, you said health
um
packs. That means he needs to. He has. He's got a task. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, but like you said you wanted like a health component, but um but like you said you wanted a health component and and the idea is that you attach it to your player, and then that manages like if the player's dead or alive, whatever. But we can also do a health regen, like if it was like a cyclone that I don't have a health thing in cyclone, but like in Portal, let's say there's a health regen in the background. So every time, so when you stop getting hit, a timer goes off, and then after a certain time has been passed, you regen your health. So maybe we should also focus on a health component too. So if the player wants to, so if the end user needs a health system, they can just add that component, or they can just copy and paste that code into their player's script if they want to.
We should create an vital system also with some energy, for example, that he is not allowed to continuously run, for example.
Yeah, like a sprint. Yeah, maybe that could also be part of like the health management system, because maybe we can maybe an idea we can add like adrenaline shots that just automatically fill your energy or something.
So have we? Okay, so we sort of want to account for both. It sounds like we want to account for health regeneration and for med pack pickups, but which do we want to actually use in the game?
In the game, we want med kit, but as like to
Why?
be because it makes because we're adding all these extra rooms and all these extra corridors, and it encourages exploration.
Good answer. I'll go with that. Zoomer and Boomer. There are two health systems, Zoomer and Boomer. Zoomer is the regeneration, and Boomer is med packs. I think the reason they use, usually the reason you would use regeneration is because your gameplay is not linear. Like with Crisis, like with a game like Crisis, where you can approach things from any direction and any attack style, like med packs would not work at all. And it also allows for lazy level design because you don't have to worry about pacing. You don't have to worry about like where they can stock up on things.
Yeah.
But for this project, I do think I agree with your idea.
Yeah. And the health regen we can add later, maybe post after this project, where you could just add like a regen system and they just tick it in the box.
Yeah.
And then like for a puzzle game or whatever, where you still want the player to get hurt, and there's still consequences. But there's no health kits. But
should we call should in like the component properties, should we have like a field, like a drop down list for like health pack style or health style Zoomer or Boomer? I'm never gonna stop using the soundboard now and making stupid jokes. Now that I've discovered that. Okay. Let's see. So, yeah, do we have anything else?
another thing we gotta worry about, not today, not tomorrow, but like in the future, we have to worry about simple components that can be orchestrated to create elaborate gameplay systems. So your wires, your gates, your visual effects, like your appearance component, where you can like make lights like flicker and dim and all that. A prefab spawner will be nice.
Yeah, let's try to keep those things in mind, and like the very abstract behavior,
Yeah.
and then try to integrate that in as we're
Yeah,
building
because-
this.
Yeah, because in Legos you couldn't really like do that because the prefab system was very limited. But again, what I want to do is just use a lot of small components to make
That looks good.
to make a big Ooh, what's going on with the glass?
Got some Z fighting or something. Those might be doubled up, maybe.
Eh.
I don't know. It looks like there might be double polys or something. But just look at the gun. That looks so good.
Yeah, but yeah, I kind of want to do what I did in Source, where I just take all these smaller bits, put them together, and I have like a gameplay item,
I bet
and
I
I
know.
save as a proof.
I bet I know what's going on here. Let's see. Test. Is that in here? In the glass?
It should be. I think it's a I think it's developer glass.
I think it's probably two-sided polys, and then it's probably rendering, has a backside rendering enabled as well.
I thought there was glass here.
Class map.
Don't you
there
have
it is.
an eye? Yeah. I was gonna say, don't you have an eyedropper tool?
Two-sided. No, two-sided is set to false. I don't even have the map open, but that's okay. We'll look at it later.
Also, please don't push Klepto's water thing because it's not really needed in the
Oh
project.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, and also, I had a question. You admitted this Steamworks code. Was that intentional? I can remove it and make an exception to get ignored.
I removed it, right?
Yeah, it wasn't there when I repulled it, but then I did the update. I let my I updated. I repulled the repo because
It's
the
back end.
Ultra. Yeah,
Who did that?
I did because I updated the project and
Oh,
then
okay.
yeah, because I had to repull the project because my Ultra JSON conflicted with the Git and yeah, and I had to repull it. But
Yeah,
we
I don't think we need this, do we?
all right, well I can just omit it from the Git ignore and actually I want to see something.
We can just delete it from the project. It should be
Yeah,
fine.
but the issue is that when we update the project, like with the shaders or whatever, the updater puts it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why.
We would need to have a function. I think I told it already when I have the problem where we was in Discord call with the updater. Do you remind that you can say okay, yeah, that the update system is saving all the files again, so you can say okay, this is actually the newest version.
Okay, so we do have we have the never update files field, and then
I think
in
though
addition,
that I think with your blacklist feature, I think that should be project based instead of globally.
yeah, I agree.
And we would need a button in addition to say okay, this project file here is up to date, where you basically open every file and save it again or something like this. That I think your updater is working like you compare the date to the file date.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does not compare the contents.
yeah. So you would need a function to make a new or update the date, something like this, with an extra warning that yeah, it's not a common feature or something you have to do often, but yeah. Because then you can say okay, you press the button and then everything has a newer date than the files in the updater.
Yeah, it would be nice if we had a little bit more control here. I mean, this is basically like an SVN system almost.
Yeah, but I think the issue is like it pulls like you go, oh, I don't need this for my project. I don't need this in my project. But the updater says, oh, you have to have this because it's in the base template folder.
Okay. This goes into another thing that we've sort of talked about, and that is right now we have like the default project creates what I want it to create because I want people to have something to work with because otherwise it's just it's not good at all. I think our first person shooter example is going to replace that, and so in the future I think it'll be like we'll have the option to create a completely blank project with only like shader files, and then we'll also have the project an option to create the first person shooter example, and then we'll our little robot guy, he'll be retired permanently.
Yeah, or you need something like a template system.
Yeah. So, and we talked about this last week, and we were talking about how difficult it is to add files into Visual Studio projects, and we opened these up, and basically every file is stored in VCXProj, which is basically, I think this is the files that get compiled, and VCXProj filters is the files that get displayed. I do not know why these are different, why it does it twice. but every CPP file is included in here somewhere. Yeah, they're all included here. This is an XML file, so is the other file. And so I added over here in the add-on developments forum, I did find a Lua XML parser. Haven't tried it yet, but this is written entirely in Lua.
Ooh.
So that means that we can write an editor extension or something that will detect all the CPP files and add it into a Visual Studio project, and it will be able to add those. We probably want to back up those files every single time we modify them, because modifying a VS project in Lua code automatically makes me very nervous. But I think that's probably going to be the way that we approach this. And then when we do that, then we can have things. We can have a blank template, and then we can have another file, another template, like the first-person shooter template, that has more files that we include, and everything should work out very nicely. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and why it's like how it is right now.
Right, and there's going to be kind of two templates. There's going to be a content template and then a language template, right?
That's, I guess, like the content template. It's gonna have.
Well, it's gonna have like the maps and the materials and the models and everything, but like
That's a good question, because I mean, is that gonna have the C++ and Lua and C# files all in the same template, or is it gonna have double copies of all the maps and models and stuff?
I think no, because like when you mix, because the Lua. Because how you have it set up right now is that like Lua is in the source folder, and then, but that will like get messy if you start putting like CPP files, and then on top of it you put C# files, and then you'll have all these source files that do the same thing.
Well, presumably the project generation step would ignore Lua files. If it's a C++ project, it would ignore C# files if it's a C++ project. So that might actually work.
You would need something like an content. I think this is kind of hard, to be honest, to create. So I think the easiest way would be that you just create for every language and template or something.
Yeah, I guess it depends on like how big are these templates going to be. If they're small, if it's like a couple hundred megabytes, then how big is this project, by the way?
I think the XFOAM is pretty big, to be honest.
It's a lot of textures.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 3 gigs.
I think this should be a DLC.
Well, it's pretty small, to be honest, then. If you see what you need to install for Unreal or for CryEngine,
but that's
gigabytes.
Yeah, but that's
just because they're doing something stupid doesn't mean that we need to also.
This is what I say. It's just really small, so I think even if you create three projects of this, your installation size will be small enough.
Well, 2 gigabytes of that is just Git files, so it's actually not that bad. The models, models and materials together, that's going to be where everything's at, and that is 900 megabytes. So yeah, we could go either way. We'll just see when we get there.
Yeah, but this is like that's just development textures and like temp models and all that. What happens if we have like high quality assets and all that? You know
so these are our biggest textures. How what did we decide we want the resolution for the general level textures to be?
Since it is a flat panel game, a standard wall texture should be 124 squared, I believe. For models, I think they should be at least 248 squared.
Well, it's texels per meter is what you really want to think in.
No, I think what we have right now is good. My concern is how big the model texture sheet should be.
And then
that can
well,
that
10,
can vary.
24 pixels per 2.56 meters if we want it to match the level. But the view models are different because you want those to be super, super high res because they're so close to the camera.
Yeah, they're on your face.
Yeah. I don't think, yeah, we don't need to worry about it too much. It's just something to keep in mind in the future, and then we'll just decide what we want to do when we get there. You can't anticipate everything.
I think also a function to resize the textures would be nice.
I agree. Do you want to post the link to, you know what would be really helpful is if you posted a link to a library that does some upsampling that's algorithmic, not AI based. If you could post that in the add-on development forum, that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, I can do this later, of course.
Thank you. That would, yeah, because then I can just, I remember what you were talking about, but if it's here, then it'll be easy to.
Yeah, Affinity Designer got this also implemented, this technique. It's basically two algorithms.
It's basically what?
There are two algorithms with which are doing the same.
Like working together?
No, different.
Or you have two different options?
Yeah.
Are they like? Is it like one is good for something and the other is better for another style?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
But I link you the right one for the textures.
Okay, cool. Normal jokes are not stupid. Normal jokes not stupid. Oh, okay.
And the F in the chat is for the robot that's going to be retired.
Oh, okay. Another round of applause for Klepto. By the way, now that I remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. Go ahead and smash that like button if you would. That would be great. And actually, let's see.
One is called XBR, the other is called HQX.
Do you know which one is which? Like what like is one good for like photos and one's for illustration, or?
The HQX is good for this what we need, I think, and the other, the XBR is good for pixel art.
Oh, okay. Yeah, ours is probably more like a photograph. Okay, so
I found something here.
We have 14 reviews of Ultra Engine Pro, 92% positive rating, and so the description it shows is positive. I believe I've seen, based on what I've seen from some others, I think if that number was 20 reviews, then this would be showing overwhelmingly positive. Because I saw one that was like, I saw one game, I noticed that I was looking at the more recent, it was like split into all reviews and recent reviews, and recent reviews it had like 22 reviews and it was like 82% positive, and that was considered overwhelmingly positive. So this isn't just based on the percentage, this is a weighted average. So the more votes you have, the better this verbal description is. And if I plan, like when we're further along, I've already like talked to Valve a little bit about this and told them, hey, you know, this is going to be really great for your VR games because they'll no longer be running slow. It's going to make VR more appealing to people. And at some point, I'm going to go back and ask them for like some special sales event, which those can make quite a lot of money in one day. So you really want to have everything lined up before you do.
Take a look at their festivals. If there's a VR fest, and it's
Yeah, we missed it in December.
Yeah, well, next time there is a VR fest, your app might not be qualified for it, but you might want to reach out to Steam support and say, "Hey, my engine is targeting virtual reality and performance. I think I should have an exception." But
we were qualified for the
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you have VR on your tags.
Yeah, that's all it takes. But those make quite a lot of money in one day. Like that time that we were on the front page of Steam, it made, I don't want to say how much, but it made a huge amount of money in one day. If I had done a deeper discount, it would have done over $1 million in one day. Absolutely. It was crazy. That was like one of the craziest days of my life. But if they think it is of strategic interest, then I think that they will go ahead and do something like that. And it's a lot easier. Like if this rating is really good, both in terms of percentage and in terms of the number of ratings, then it makes it that much easier for me to ask them for help when I do go to them. By the way, we have the Steam Leadworks games bundle is in development. I've got about 4 people participating right now. I'd really like to get Blade Quest in there because they...
Is that on Steam?
It is, and I sent a message to the author a couple of days ago, and haven't heard back from him yet. I'll probably email him too.
Yeah, because
that would be a strong.
A lot of these developers just disappeared. You know what I mean? You're asking people.
Yeah, we're talking about Leadworks, so that was these were developed quite a long time ago.
Okay.
I think Blade Quest is a really nice game to get in that package. Also added Concealment. I think this is it.
Yeah,
this is it. This is good. I already talked to the author, and he already put his game in there. We've got Salvation Land. This is another nice one, and he was on here like a few I don't know, like a while ago, and he showed us what he was working on.
Yeah, the issue is that he's planning on moving it to Ultra Engine. I don't know if it's going to be a new app ID or not, but
I think you'll have to talk to him about that because I'm not sure that's true. But and then of course we have Cyclone by our very own Reap Blue. This is a really fun game, and it's definitely worth the money. Yeah, it's very cool, but these will all show up as a bundle on the store page right here. And so I think that's really going to be, well, hopefully it will be effective in bringing more traffic to all of your games. If I can do something that benefits you guys like that, then I think that's very cool.
Well, if you're also going to ship the editor with it, it's going to benefit me because, you know, I get a package deal with it comes with an editor. So
yeah, but if we can get those 5 games in there, then I think that's going to be a very appealing package for people to buy. I think it'll do very well. But
all right,
so that's pretty much
a nice experiment too, because you know, because you could see if this would gonna be if it's home run.
Yeah, for sure. So
you could be like, oh, I might do this in Ultra Engine too.
Yeah.
The only The only thing is that you can't add games to a package. So let's say you do like a bundle. I don't think you can like reopen the bundle to let more games in. I think once it's locked,
Really,
it's locked.
it's finalized.
I believe so.
Okay.
That's the impression I got.
Okay, well,
But with Lego, in Legos, you don't care because it's any game that was made with it is made with it.
yeah, that's probably the case. Okay. Anything else before we go?
No. So what do you need me to do? You said, do you want me to work on the holster, or you're gonna work on it? I just want to know what I'm doing the rest of today.
I'd say let's try to figure out how we want that the holster component to work, how we want the pickup components to work. Yeah, and then we'll get the remaining weapon added in, converted next week, and we can also start with like the melee style, figuring out how that works.
All right. So just keep me posted, I guess, and I'll talk when I can.
Yeah, I think what works is like just not having any plan and just like you add some code and I add some code, and that really seems to work the best.
Well,
so
yeah,
far.
I think it's useful when you start doing something, and then it's like, and then it gets my brain going.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I know to do something. The
Yeah,
only thing
for
is
sure.
that like hard during the week because it's like you're doing stuff when I'm working, and I'm like, oh, I can't, can't like do this now. You know what I mean? So usually
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays is when I shine. So when I
Okay, well
can
maybe
do
we can get that started this afternoon, and then because I don't really know, I don't have like a firm idea of what I'm going to be working on for the rest of
or
the
that's
day.
fine. Yeah, that's why I'm asking you because I don't have a firm idea what I'm working on the rest of the day.
Well, let's just start the holster component then today, and just see. Let's just start writing code and just see where it goes.
All right, works. All right, just keep me posted.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you all for joining for another cool week, and I'm going to stop the recording now.